In Heartland Season 17, Episode 10, Heartland Beef confronts an uncertain future. Nathan attempts to make apologies with Amy while tending to his wounded horse. A mishap puts Shane's wedding in danger, and Katie discovers a new side to herself. At the beginning of the episode, Amy was showing Chloe how to ride Nathan's horse, Powder, side saddle, while Shane was setting up a music system and a ton of lights at the gazebo. However, something must have gone wrong with all the lights when Amy and Chloe were taking a rest, because the gazebo was on fire. Fortunately, nobody was harmed and the gazebo was the only structure to burn down. However, because Powder was tethered to a gazebo post, he became agitated and ran away, and Amy was unable to soothe the horse once she released him, and there was a fight between Shane and Chloe. Even though they are leaving for London in a few weeks, the bride and groom were already uneasy before the fire when Chloe discovered that Shane hadn't given his notice at work yet. Furthermore, the fire just made matters worse. Chloe began to worry that Shane might have overloaded the extension cord after Amy, Nathan, Miranda, Shane, and Chloe put out the fire. Shane shot back, saying that he did so only because Chloe insisted on having so many lights in a music system. Subsequently, Chloe lost it when Amy broke the awful news that she wouldn't be riding Powder down the aisle, and Tim informed them they wouldn't be able to restore the gazebo in time for the wedding after his return from Calgary. More on that later. They got into a fight because Shane hadn't resigned his job yet, even though they had agreed to go to London, and she was accusing him of not paying attention because he had accepted a work call with the partners, and that was why the fire happened. Soon after one incident led to another, Chloe was suggesting to Shane that they call off the wedding completely. Tim and Miranda were thankfully present for their son. Tim also assisted Shane in realizing that, despite external changes, a relationship cannot be destroyed by them. And that conversation appeared to be very beneficial, since Shane and Chloe eventually spoke the next day. Shane apologized for changing his mind about London after receiving a promotion opportunity from his law firm partners, and Chloe apologized for going all bridezilla on him. Chloe then advised Shane to accept the promotion and disclosed that she was expecting a very nice job offer in Philadelphia, meaning that both of them could remain in the country without having to take a step back in their careers. The wedding was rescheduled after they reconciled. Amy suggested that Chloe and Shane get married at the location where she and T intended to construct their home because it was among the most breathtaking spots on the Heartland Ranch. Powder was even ready on time thanks to Nathan's efforts, and with all of their loved ones there, we saw a stunning wedding ceremony in which Jack wed Shane and Chloe. The wedding ceremony turned out to be quite lovely. It was also wonderful to watch Shane get married with his father and sisters by his side, even if we were only able to witness a few seconds of the ceremony itself. If there are any further seasons, I hope to see the happy couple come to Heartland, as they will only be a short flight away rather than going to London. However, Amy and Nathan's relationship was doing well by the end of Heartland Season 17, Episode 10. Shane and Chloe's relationship wasn't the only one that went through ups and downs and ended on a positive note. As you recall from last week, Nathan said a few things to Amy at the conclusion of the previous episode that really irritated her. We learned that Nathan's wife had cheated on him, causing the couple to get divorced and rendering Nathan cynical about love. And he ended up hinting that Amy's relationship with Ty is included in the heartbreak that he now believes every relationship ends in. Nathan attempted to apologize to Amy after realizing what he had said, but the harm had already been done. Thus, we witnessed Nathan attempting to make apologies in this episode. Powder was terrified following the gazebo fire, so he had plenty of time with Amy to get him back to normal in time for Shane and Chloe's wedding. Luckily for him, Amy and Nathan were working with the horse. When Nathan initially tried to apologize, it was when he went to the Dude Ranch to pick up Powder at the beginning of the episode. However, the gazebo fire cut them off. Nathan then gave it another go when they went in search of Powder, who had taken off after becoming alarmed by the fire. Amy didn't fully accept Nathan's apology at first either. However, he was able to clarify that while he didn't believe that all relationships are doomed, he also couldn't picture himself being married again, since it's more complicated than that. Amy was perplexed by Nathan's position on love, but our heroine also understood that there was more to Nathan's explanation than what he was giving her. He is, as she said, a pretty complicated character, so it's not entirely accurate for him to suggest that he's given up on love. Furthermore, it contradicts Nathan's request that Amy go on rides and his proactive efforts to make time for Amy. This was later confirmed to us when Amy and Nathan had a conversation at the stable while Nathan was taking care of Powder. He asked Amy if she would still be in a relationship with Tay, and she was aware of all the suffering and loss that would eventually come with Ty's breakup, in addition to making sure she understood that just because his marriage ended horribly doesn't mean he wants that to happen to anybody else. Nathan seemed to alter when Amy said she would definitely do it again in a heartbeat. He was now even more anxious to have Powder ready for Chloe and Shane's wedding. When Amy began to doubt their ability to get Powder back on track in time, he even pushed her to keep going. The following day, he got up early to work with Powder and was able to win back Powder's trust. Despite Nathan being the one guiding the horse, Amy still felt uneasy about Chloe riding Powder down the aisle since Powder trusts Nathan. And despite everything he had previously stated about love and marriage, Nathan consented to do it, much to Amy's amazement. Thus, Chloe was escorted by Nathan down the aisle on Powder, and during the ceremony, Nathan stood close to the horse, glancing at Amy. Not to mention, Chloe failed to take her bouquet from Nathan after getting off the horse. And then, while Amy and Lindy were out riding at the end of the episode, Nathan and Amy reconnected. Amy praised Nathan for all of his assistance with Powder, and since the episode concluded with a picture of Lindy, Amy, and Nathan looking up at the sky in peace while Nathan's dog, Molly, lay next to them, Nathan accepted Lindy's invitation to go cloud gazing. The plot between Heartland Beef and Garland Foods was another one that Heartland Season 17 Episode 10 sort of tied up. Lou, Tim, and Jack presented Fred with a fantastic concept in the last episode that would increase sales and persuade Garland Foods to maintain their exclusivity agreement with Heartland Beef. However, throughout all of their conversations, Fred came across as shifty at worst and preoccupied at best. The episode concluded with Lou receiving an email informing her that Garland Foods was discontinuing Heartland Beef. Nothing, no explanation. In order to find out the truth and persuade Fred to change his mind about his company dumping Heartland Beef, Jack, Tim, and Lou made the decision to go speak with Fred in person in this episode. But they were in for a huge surprise when they got to the Garland Foods headquarters in Calgary. Tim took matters into his own hands and hurried to Fred's office after the receptionist refused to allow them see Fred. However, Tim did not greet them as Fred stormed into his office. Iris McLean has taken over as CEO of Garland Foods, following Fred's apparent dismissal by the board that morning. Lou, Jack, and Tim were perplexed and a little upset over that alone. After all, Fred had never stopped bragging about how family-owned Garland Foods is, but that doesn't appear to be the case any longer. It also didn't help that security led them out of the Garland Foods facility. Since Garland Foods didn't appear to be a possibility for Heartland Beef anymore, all they could do was return home. Jack even addressed Nathan the following day, expressing his belief that Nathan wanted to put Heartland Beef out of business. Naturally, Nathan attempted to clarify that was never his goal and that he wanted them to be friendly rivals rather than adversaries. He also attempted to encourage Jack to persevere, but Jack would have none of it. Fortunately, Lisa, whose birthday they celebrated that night, asked to move the herd the following morning, so the plan was to execute a family cattle drive. And that's when things for Heartland Beef began to improve. Since Heartland Beef is a family-run business, and they can easily move cattle without hiring anyone, Tim, Jessica, Jack, Lisa, Lou, Amy, Katie, and Lindy pulled off a successful cattle drive without the need for outside assistance. Additionally, Jack looked to be more upbeat after the cattle drive. He assured everyone at the end of the trip that Heartland Beef would continue to thrive with or without Garland Foods, and he thanked the family for their assistance. In addition, following the drive, Jessica snapped some pictures of the Heartland women, and Lou was inspired to come up with a fresh idea for Heartland by the images. Thus, Lou, Tim, and Jack returned to Garland Foods headquarters in Calgary, this time arranging a formal meeting with the board to present a novel concept that Heartland women represent the future of Heartland Beef. Everything was contained in the proposal Lou had written, including the sales plan and marketing approach. Lou, Tim, and Jack thought that the new Garland Foods isn't a firm they want to work with if they treat them like this, but the new CEO cut her off before she could tell the board more about their new approach. Lou left the session with her head held high, explaining to Iris and the board that Heartland Beef needs Garland Foods to thrive. Rather, it's the other way around. It appears that Heartland Beef and Garland Food may no longer be working together. But I don't believe Heartland Beef should give up just yet. Tim, Lou, and Jack appeared committed to fighting and finding an alternative course for their future. And they most certainly will. Even with Lou on board and working non-stop to ensure Heartland Beef's survival and future, it may not be simple, but it is undoubtedly doable. To see how that works out, I simply hope Heartland gets renewed for many seasons. Katie was outside experimenting with the dirt bike Lou had given her at the conclusion of the previous episode, while the adults were fretting about getting married, buying horses, and starting businesses. Katie asked Ellie what it's like to jump over obstacles while they were out riding, and Katie made the decision to give it a shot after Ellie described the intense rush of adrenaline that comes with jumping. Despite having previously admitted to her pals that she doesn't like to take chances, Ellie told Katie to take it gently at first and build her way up. It was, however, easier said than done. Ellie, who was also quite kind and mentioned that Katie might not be the kind to jump, said that Katie was not very good at jumping. Their friendship had truly bloomed, but Katie persisted because she was determined to do it. She tried once and fell, but she didn't give up. Ellie even went so far as to suggest that perhaps Katie is a risk taker after all. But Katie didn't truly succeed until the very end of the episode. She informed Lou that she would be jumping over the fence and invited her mother to the course that she, Brandon, and Ellie had constructed. Lou panicked out a little, of course, but Katie explained that even though the jump was a little risky, she still wanted to do it, and wanted to do it with Lou by her side, so that Lou would always know that her mother is there for her. She then took off and executed a flawless leap. Lou wasn't scared. On the contrary, she was thrilled for her daughter. They laughed and gave each other high fives. It amply demonstrated the progress Lou and Katie's relationship has made thus far this season. Undoubtedly, their journey hasn't been easy for either of them. But as Katie matures and Lou begins to have greater faith in her judgment, it truly demonstrates how similar the two of them are and how wonderful their partnership can be. Finally, I wanted to talk about how great it was to observe the few exchanges of dialogue between Miranda and Tim and Miranda and Jessica. But as the last episode showed, Tim and Miranda have both matured significantly since their relationship. There was really no reason to worry, as they are both in happy, fresh relationships. Miranda's discussions with Jessica and Tim in this episode serve as evidence of that. Initially, when the gazebo burned down and Miranda was searching for Tim, we witnessed her and Jessica conversing in the loft. It seemed as though the two women had truly come to terms with Tim's history and present coexisting amicably. Additionally, Miranda seems to have at last come to terms with the truth that her relationship with Tim wasn't meant to be. It's not a failure. They were simply not meant to be together. Then Tim and Miranda had a conversation prior to the wedding and came to the same conclusion. Although their relationship didn't work out, it's still alright because shame was a blessing. These brief exchanges gave the impression that Tim's past and his transgressions were being acknowledged and even healed. With the knowledge that their lives had transpired as intended, each person could now move on. Unfortunately, we are still unsure if Heartland will get an 18th season. It is usually around the spring or early summer that these judgments are made, so it will probably be several months before we hear anything. For instance, the announcement of the renewal was made on May 8th of last year and June 1st of 2022. However, I have hope. Because of Heartland's popularity on Netflix, the show has a sizable, devoted, and supportive fan base that has only increased in recent years. Heartland was the 5th most streamed TV show in the US in 2021.